She is the mastermind behind the Twitter and social media strategy for Miss Dionne Warwick. If you do not follow her on Twitter, I suggest you go do that as soon as possible because she's absolutely hilarious. And that's due in part to the amazing work that Brittani is doing behind the scenes. She's also breaking barriers. She is the president of WebNet One, which is a digital agency that works with projects driven by AI. And she's also doing her own work to really just expand her own voice and specifically to bring awareness to mental health and just make the internet a safer, more responsible space for all of us. So thank you, Brittani, for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited. I really love you guys. I'm really excited to talk today. I
just want to say you're matching the background with your fabulous pink sweater, very color coordinated.
On purpose. I was a different color, but I was like, you know what? Pink is really the vibe. So yeah.
I love it. It's giving me life in the middle of this crazy week. So thanks again for being here. I wanted to do a little icebreaker, and maybe everyone in the chat can join this icebreaker too. During our prep call, we were talking about our first interactions with the internet. I think depending on like what era you were coming up in, that the answers could be very wide-ranging. For me, I know my first interaction was web TV. If anyone else had that back in the late 90s, it was like a dial-up internet. And then after that is when AOL popped off and I had my AOL username. It was a combo between me and my best friend's names and birth years because we were like very sentimental like that. And I did all the AOL chat rooms and fun things. And yeah, what was your first interaction with the internet, Brittani?
Sort of similar. My parents are very tech savvy, so we were always getting like the latest that was coming out. And I remember very vividly, I grew up in the 90s, so I'm a 90s baby. And my parents were getting AOL. They had those little like CD-ROMs. CD-ROM, I'm aging myself, but we called it America Online because that's what AOL is short for, right? And that's like my very first real experience with the internet. But of course, like, you know, we had time limits. My parents were very like protective because like, what is this, you know, new thing that we're doing? Who are you talking to online? So I wasn't really allowed to do like chat rooms. I was very heavily monitored. But then we had AIM, instant message. And that was like a middle school thing for me, aging myself again. And my screen names were embarrassing. You know, like just like things that I didn't know what they meant, like little hottie, blah, 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 or like just like things that I had no business like making my profile name. But that's my first real experience with the internet is like dial up, you know, you could only get on it so many, you know, minutes. I had, you know, 3 other siblings, so.
Yeah, I see a lot of people in the chat shouting out that AOL dial-up. Someone was even brave enough to drop her AIM screen name. If anyone else is brave enough to do that, I'm imploring you, please bring us some joy, some more joy today. But before we jump into some more questions about the work that you're doing, I'm wondering if you, because I think the word consultant gets thrown around a lot right now. We have social media consultants, we have digital consultants, etc. But how would you define your title per se, if you had to?
President is, you know, first and foremost is my title. I'm the youngest president at WebNet One. Sitting president, and you know our agency is very wonderful. It's situated on the East Coast, and we work with a lot of great corporate clients. But before that, consulting and like jumping around and you know doing one-off clients and just really like I would say freelance instead of consulting. Is that weird?
No, not at all.
Call it.
You're cool, girl. You tell me.
Yeah, I usually just say freelance, but like, you know, Sundance was a contracted thing and, you know, which was amazing, a huge experience. But freelance is more the vibe for me. I don't really say consulting because I do feel like it is thrown around and it's more of like a niche sort of name.
Right. So addition to being the youngest president at WebNet One, which is absolutely amazing. I think most people also are getting to know you through your work for Miss Dionne Warwick, your aunt. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got into your field of expertise? Because I'm sure people want to make assumptions or whatnot, but you have a really amazing, inspiring come up story that I think is totally, I want to hear more about.
Thank you. Yes, I think the common misconception is that it's nepotism, but I really did the work on my own to get to where I am. And, you know, when I graduated high school, you know, MySpace was a thing. Again, aging myself, but MySpace was like, you could make that page your own. You could really like put your personality out there, and like every page was really different, and it really showcased who you were. And I really loved that. And I really thought like, man, like if I can make money doing MySpace or something like MySpace, that's what I want to do. But I ended up going to school for psychology, which is a super huge plot twist. But I think that psychology actually helps me to better implement my work, you know, with ethical social media usage and, you know, really taking into account mental health. Anyways, I did start working with Aunt Dionne on the road, and, you know, she gave me a lot of creative freedom to like sort of, you know, assess whether or not this is what I wanted to do. But, you know, as far as like my journey and my career, you know, it really took a lot of hard work. No one really handed me anything. I really had to work for what I have today, which I'm super proud of. And it's led me up until this moment of, you know, president at WebNet One, and really heading up this agency with a great team.
Awesome. I love how you mentioned how your psychology background sort of helps your work. And I think it's especially helpful right now in terms of like how we interact with the internet, especially in lieu of a pandemic. So it's really cool that, you know, all the pieces come together eventually, even when we think like, what am I doing here? It all sort of works out. And also, I want to remind everyone watching, if you have any questions for Brittani throughout the chat, make sure you drop them. And hopefully we'll have some time at the end to get them answered. But going back, Brittani, because you said, you know, you feel more comfortable identifying as a freelancer, but then you are president at an agency. So that sounds like a sharp pivot, you know, from freelance to this more corporate world. So I guess what was the easiest or hardest part of making that transition? And what's your advice for women who want to, you know, start over professionally speaking right now? Because I think a lot of us, especially over the past year, have, you know, considered making a pivot of some kind.
Yeah. My first thing I would say, if you want to do it, do it. Don't just like, I feel like we get in our head with like egos and like, what if this happens? What if this happens? Or what if this doesn't happen? And I really feel like if you feel in your heart and your gut that what you're doing right now is not for you and you feeling a pull in a different direction, do it. What do you have to lose? Like, you don't want to look back and think like, what if I did that? You know, I'm so sorry that I didn't, you know, like, you don't waste time. We only get one life, and it's super important that we follow our dreams and our heart. So if you're thinking about pivoting into a different career, do it. Awesome. Do it. Yeah. Awesome. What was the second part of the question? Sorry, I just got so excited about telling about.
Totally. I love it. I'm all about mindset and positive reinforcement. Like, we all need that every day. So yeah. No worries. Was there any like standout parts of that transition that were especially easy or especially difficult for you?
I have a wonderful mentor. And I don't know if he wants to be named, so I won't, but I have a wonderful mentor that, you know, I've known for a very long time, and my whole life, which is a long time. And he's been there every step of the way of my career. And the decision to step into this corporate leadership role was really something that was encouraged. You know, it takes a village, right? And so I had to unlearn a lot of things as a freelancer, as someone who's contracting, and learn more about the corporate side of things. And so, yes, if you feel that, you know, it's something that you want to dip into and do a different pivot in your career, absolutely do it. But take the time to learn what that means. Unlearn, you know, different practices that you might have, you know, taken on when you were working by yourself, which is what I had to do. And it's, you know, I think it's sort of like doing the things that scare you. That that was really one of the roadblocks, you know, for me, is kind of like doing the thing that scared me, which is pivoting in a career, and not having to do these one-off things. You know, working corporate is way different than stepping into a creative department and working with a team of creatives. You really have a different role, and it's you're responsible for that.
Totally. I love how you touched on the unlearning. I feel like we're always so focused on learning new things, picking up new skills, putting more on our plate, but a lot of the times the key to moving forward is learning to sort of let go of things that we've done in the past and creating more space, you know, to flourish. Now I want to get into some nitty-gritty stuff here, as far as the work you do, specifically managing or sort of guiding the strategy for your aunt's social media accounts. What are some of your favorite apps, favorite strategies, favorite tools that you sort of keep on hand when it comes to that work, and also just your day-to-day work?
Okay, so, you know, with my clients, you know, right now in corporate, we have an internal system that, you know, sort of handles that day-to-day stuff, which is awesome, because I kind of don't love switching between apps. I don't love that at all. It's sort of like you forget where you're going and you have to keep a little folder in your phone. It's like a whole thing. So I really like the internal system. But, you know, with Aunt Dionne and, you know, other clients that I do work with, I try to study which platform is best for them. And then I sort of mitigate, like, okay, this is the app for this person, this is the app for that person. So for example, with Aunt Dionne, I sort of keep her in the internal system that keeps me organized. And then my favorite apps, I love TikTok right now. I'm obsessed with TikTok. And I think the main reason I'm obsessed with TikTok is because it's like, you know, it's the continuous scroll. So it's really like the feature that keeps you on the app. And I really like that feature because it, you know, keeps people using it. It's really clever. But also there's so many people on TikTok that's creating different things, and it's so inspiring. So if I need some inspiration, I'll jump on TikTok, because you never know what you're going to find. You never know like what you're going to learn. People are teaching you new things. Yeah, I think in terms of like working day to day, it's the internal content management system that we use at my at WebNetWing.
Awesome. And going back to TikTok, because it just kind of like blew up out of nowhere last year. And I think, although I think it's like setting records in terms of people actually using the app, I think a lot of people are still hesitant to be on the app, myself included, especially creatives, because there are so many platforms out there to choose from. And a lot of their features are all sort of like overlapping and very similar with one another now. Admittedly, I think a lot of them are actually replicating TikTok's model when it comes to some of their features, because it's so successful. But do you have any advice for creatives who are hesitant to sort of jump on new platforms or jump on new features? Maybe there was something in terms of like your interaction with your Aunt Dionne where, I don't know if she was hesitant at all. Like how do you get over that hump?
Yes, she was hesitant for everything. Really had to teach her a few things. But yeah, I feel like if you're hesitant to go on an app, especially something like TikTok, it's really good to jump on and just observe. You know, take it, like if you're doing a specific sort of like niche market and trying to like sell something, or if you're an artist or whatever it is, go on the app and study the other artists. What are they doing? What's getting the most views? What's getting the most engagement? How are they engaging with the people that are commenting? Really study their model, because if it's working, right? So, you know, and it's different for each category. You know, different people engage in different ways. But, you know, first and foremost, jump on that app and study it. Cool. Figure out how the algorithm goes, figure out what people are doing, what's funny, what's not funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So like basically people watch.
Yes. That's
yeah.
I did that on TikTok for a very long time, for months, to kind of like get a feel for the algorithm, because I wasn't sure about it either. And I don't make TikToks. I feel like that's not my thing. But, you know, studying it really helps me to understand what is going to be funny and what's viral.
Right. Now, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see people making on social media, and I guess really in any other avenue that you may encounter through your work?
The biggest mistake is to think that you're too good for somebody, is to think that you're too good to engage, to comment, to interact with people. Social media is a social thing. And if you're not being social, you're not humanizing yourself, and you're putting yourself in a different light. You know, that people, if you like the accounts that don't follow people, that have 0 followers, but they have, I mean, they're following 0 people, but they have like 1 million followers. That doesn't really, that hits the eye wrong to me. I feel like if you're on social media, one of the biggest mistakes that you can make is to not engage with the people that are putting you at the level that you are at.
Right.
Really get in there and talk to people.
Cool. And do you have any tips for just increasing engagement in general besides putting yourself out there? Like, is there anything else that you think works?
One of the biggest parts of my strategy is chaos, which is like, I really like the chaotic feel to it, because it's like, if people are not expecting what's next from you, they're always going to be watching you, right? They don't know what to expect, so they're always going to be looking and seeing like, okay, what's going to happen next? So that's like really like one of my approaches to it. But, you know, to increase engagement, I think it's good to use content with your stuff. You know, I'm really big on GIFs, you know, like what's going to catch the eye when you're scrolling on your feed. You really need to think about colors. You need to think about hashtags. People really overuse hashtags. That's something else that people should take into consideration. Study where your hashtag is leading to. How many hits is that hashtag getting? Should you be using that hashtag? Like, really look and see if it's viable. Anyways, using, you know, movable content, GIFs, engaging with people, asking people questions, you know, just really getting in there and socializing.
Yeah, I agree. Asking questions is like my answer to everything. I feel like it's the best way to solve conflict. I feel like it's the best way to engage with people in a casual or not so casual way. All about asking questions. And that totally applies to social media as well. Yes. A lot of people are talking about Clubhouse. They want to know your thoughts on Clubhouse.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I feel like Clubhouse, it is a game changer. Yes, it is something that is next level. It is a great idea. I think it has a ways to go in terms of like safety issues. Okay. It's sort of like a free-for-all at this moment for the people that are on it. And that's another thing, the exclusiveness of Clubhouse right now. I'm not really vibing with it. I understand it's in beta and it's like invite only, but it sort of like makes people feel left out, which I'm not really about that.
In the chat, they feel left out.
Yeah, exactly. And I haven't jumped into a room in Clubhouse for the very fact that it's like everyone's talking about so many different things on Clubhouse. You really have to search for things in order for it to like really catch your eye and like get in there and like talk. And even if you get into that room, I don't know yet. I think that's my answer. I know Twitter has spaces, which, you know, is sort of like also it's sort of invite only, but I think it's easier because I don't know if it's for Droid yet. That's another thing. Clubhouse is not for Android yet. Yes. And that makes everybody, like people who have Droids, feel left out. I think it has a ways to go. I do like the concept and the idea, though. Yes.
Awesome. We're almost out of time. Told you this is going to go by so fast. But I have 2 more questions I want to make sure we get through. My first one is for creatives, women who want to do the type of work that you do, whether it's freelance strategy work or whether it's working in the corporate world. What is your advice for getting into this space?
Don't be afraid to take an internship. Start at the ground level because it really is a lot of learning. And I know people look at like social media management as sort of like a side job or something that you can just do, but there's a lot of moving parts here and there's a lot to learn. And so if you would like to get into this field, I feel like it would be really smart to go in maybe at an agency where they work at a quick pace, or get in as a coordinator, which is also a great position to have because the coordinator coordinates stuff, but also, you get to learn different parts of the department. You get to, meet different people. So don't be afraid to get in at a lower level than you think that you would be getting in at.
Awesome. Any advice for just sort of like self-education, like when it comes to learning about consulting or all the different platforms? Is it just a matter of like just jumping in, getting on these platforms, doing some people watching and putting some strategies into action? Or is there some other path that you think is just as beneficial?
I think it's, getting the apps that are like major right now, the popular apps, and really studying and people watching is a really good idea. And taking those specific things that you're learning and applying it to your personal account and seeing if that works. Try and grow your own account first. And that way you can kind of sort of do like A/B testing and see, okay, this doesn't work. So I would never do this for a client, but I did this for myself and that worked great. Your personal account is a good way to sort of do that. Your LinkedIn, your Twitter account, your Instagram, any social platform that's personal. I really would try to implement those things that you're learning for yourself first.
That's fantastic advice that I'm going to take for myself too.
Yeah.
And I think this is actually a great question to sort of end on. Someone in the audience wants to know, how can they get more speaking engagements? You're here speaking with us today. I guess people want a better idea of how to promote the work that they're doing or promote their mission.
Talk to people. Really, honestly, like get on your social apps and start friending people and start sharing what it is that you're doing. For me, it took a really long time for me to get comfortable with doing that. But since I started engaging with people, like-minded individuals, I'm being asked to participate in podcasts and I'm talking with you now. And it's just like really putting yourself out there and really stepping back from being afraid to do something really opens and expands your world. So don't be afraid to, message someone and say, hey, I noticed that you do this. I do this too. Really get in their network.
Awesome. And I know I said I only have one more question. I'm going to blame retrograde, but I really wanted to make sure that we get into this because it's a big part of the work you're doing, which is, helping to make the internet a more responsible, safer place for all, really prioritizing mental health. So I would love for you to tell us all about the work you're doing in that regard.
Yes. Okay. So I will be launching a mental health initiative this year. I really want to get resources to people who, may not be able to afford therapy, who maybe is growing up in a household where therapy is not believed in, or you just generally are curious as to like educating yourself about that. I want to get resources to people because, I feel that mental health is looked at as a luxury, right? But it's not. It's just as important as going to the doctor and getting a physical. And so I really want to make it more of a commonplace and, break that stigma of talking about it. If you guys follow me on Twitter, I really, go deep into like my mental health experiences. I share resources all the time. And I even offer to like help, pay subscriptions sometimes because I know that those subscriptions can get a little bit dicey. And also we're in a pandemic and people need therapy. So that's a space that I really plan to champion this year. And just making sure that we're practicing ethical social media usage. Just be mindful that, people are struggling. You don't know what people are going through. And just because you're on the internet and hiding behind a keyboard, it doesn't mean that you can say whatever you want to X, Y, and Z. Really think about the consequences.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that you're mentioning this because I think especially in the Black community, there's this huge stigma on mental health. Like if you go and sit with a therapist, it's like sadly still such a taboo thing. So I think it's really important and fantastic that you're bringing more attention to this topic. And Sophia did just drop Brittani's Twitter handle, so make sure y'all follow her to keep up with, the mental health resources she's sharing. And of course, we'll be sharing them through blogher.com as soon as her resources are ready. But I think that's a great way to wrap up this convo. Thank you so much, Brittani. It's been amazing having you here. You're doing beautiful work with your aunt. as a boundary-breaking president of an agency. We're honored to have you and look forward to continuing to support.
Thank you so much, Nikki. I am just blessed to be here, and I'm really excited to connect further with you guys.